Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. I got up this morning. I'm at the Convention of the Oppressed, held by Malik Shabazz from the new Black Panther Party and Black Lawyers for Justice. And I got up this morning because I had so much work to do. You know, there's usually just a ton of work just stacked up to the ceiling on my desk every day, and I couldn't help but to kind of pay attention to a couple of the comments I heard from a remark I made yesterday. And I felt like it would be interesting to have a little deeper elaboration on the topic, not so much because I'm upset about what anybody said or anything like that. I mean, the simple explanation is that basically I just felt like it's something worth talking about and something worth going deeper into. Basically, here's what I discussed yesterday. What I discussed yesterday was the way we go about choosing our partners and how that can cause us to have some problems that we don't expect. And some advice that I gave was advice that I would give to my daughters. And I share this stuff sometimes because, there's a part of me that wishes every child I hear without a father could be my child. I wish that I could be of help to those people. But I don't have enough money to send everybody, and I can't be a daddy to everybody. That's not a smart thing to do. So what I can do, though, is I can be at least a temporary daddy where I can share the things with you that I might share with my own kids, or things that a father would tell their daughter. And I don't say this as an expert on relationships or as somebody who went to school for this kind of stuff, but I did learn a few things. Number one, being a father for 26 years makes a difference. It definitely gives you perspective on a woman's point of view, because I've had a chance to see women from childhood all the way through adulthood and just how women think differently from men. And then also, I did write a book called Financial Lovemaking that I've kind of partnered with Tia Brown on. Tia Brown is a life coach who works at Ebony Magazine, and she's an executive there or a manager there or something like that. And we've spent a lot of time really doing research on relationship related issues and how this impacts your outcomes in life. So while I'm not a person who necessarily can give you advice per se, or a lot of advice on exactly how to make a relationship last, because I haven't been married, so I'm not going to tell you how to make a marriage work or not work. I can tell you how various relationships, the dynamics of relationships are consistent across the board. So whether you're talking about romantic relationships, business relationships, family relationships, a lot of it's kind of the same. A lot of the principles are the same, and also the impacts on the outcomes can be very consistent across the board. For example, I've seen a lot of people marry the wrong person at the wrong time, maybe for the wrong reasons, and end up ruined because of it, financially, emotionally, maybe even physically and spiritually and everything else. And so one thing I learned very early in the game is that the partnerships that you bring into your life, the people that you bring around you, can be huge. It can make a huge difference in terms of what your outcomes are. So anyway, long story short, I was thinking about what I mentioned yesterday to women. I was telling young women advice, or giving them not advice, but just sharing a perspective as a father, as a man, on how the way you pick a man is very important in terms of how your life turns out. And I said, generally, ladies, I mean, if I were you, in my opinion, I would avoid men who are lazy, unskilled, and who stay high and drunk all the time. It doesn't mean that you can't date a man who drinks, or it doesn't mean you can't date a man who smokes weed. It doesn't mean you can't date a man who who likes to chill or whatever. But the thing about it is that there has to be something that overcomes. The positive must outweigh the negative in a way that's going to be beneficial to you and your kids. Because what happens is, to what I've seen, is that if you are a woman and you're with a man who is not productive, who doesn't sort of make plans for his life, who doesn't make sacrifices for the future, who doesn't get up and work his butt off when he needs to, it can make things really uncomfortable for you and your children. You don't have the security that you seek from a man. You don't have somebody you can depend on. You don't have somebody who can go out here and figure it out and get it done, make things happen. I can think about times where my father has told me stories about when he couldn't get a job and they wouldn't hire him, and he was basically like, look, we're going to figure something out because I got kids at home to feed and I got a wife. And he figured it out. He forced the issue. And then he talked about his father, and he talked about times where his father's back was against the wall, where his mother would say, we need this, we need that. And he would go out here, he'd be like, I'll be back. And he will go out and make it happen, right? And that takes a certain amount of guts, or a man has to have his nuts firmly attached to his body to be able to go out here and just say, I'm about to force the issue and make it happen no matter what. And what I have found is that a man who stays high and drunk all the time isn't going to really have the ambition a lot of times to go do that. Sometimes he might. Maybe some people are functioning alcoholics or functioning drug addicts. So there are exceptions to every rule. But just because there are exceptions to a rule, that doesn't mean that there is no rule. And so, I would generally say to women, if you want men, I think if you want to pick the right kind of man that's going to be really good for your kids, it's not going to disappoint your kids. It's one thing if he disappoints you. It's another thing if he's disappointing your children, because that's a triple whammy. I mean, it hurts you that you've been hurt, but very few things can pierce a mother's heart more than seeing her children devastated, crying and sad and upset. And what I have to talk to my girls about is I say, these guys don't always appear that way when you first meet them. They might appear as guys who just seem real cool, fun to hang out with, fun to talk to, good looking, got swag, nice clothes, nice whatever. But I mean, you really have to make sure you keep an eye on ambition. What's the ambition of this man? And I tell my girls all the time. I say, look, if a man can't tell you, if you ask him what's your 5 or 10 year plan, and he can't kind of give you some detailed analysis of what he's planning on doing with his life, I said that's a problem, because success for a man or woman or anybody usually doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen that you wake up one day and you just trip and fall and you land inside success. You have to kind of figure out where it's at, be willing to make the journey, and be walking every day towards success. And be focused in that process. A lot of us lose focus. That's why a lot of people don't get what they want out of life, is they lose focus. I've just noticed that I've seen a lot of really talented people. I would look at people and I say, ooh, he's more talented than me, but he ain't gonna get too far because he can't focus. Or ooh, she's very smart. She's really good at that. She's probably gonna be really successful, but the problem is she's not focused. She's focused, spending her energy fighting with this dude that she doesn't know is pulling her down. I have observations like this all the time. I just don't share that perspective very often because it's kind of intrusive. It's invasive. You don't want people getting mad at you, because when a person's in a situation, they're not usually going to be happy about other people on the outside kind of saying like, that's not going. I don't think that's really going to work out for you. But after it's over, then maybe they have a different kind of perspective. I just think about a friend I had one time who was extremely smart, really capable. I mean, one of those, like, I went to college at the age of 16 type people. And she got locked up with this guy. And I remember just kind of watching the relationship and thinking, man, like, this is really throwing her off her game. So she literally spent maybe that latter half of her 20s not making progress on the things that mattered to her, but fighting in this crazy up and down, upside down relationship. So she ended up in her 30s trying to play catch up because she felt like she'd lost 4 or 5 years of her life. And kind of being stuck in a bad relationship for several years when you could have been working towards some goal that matters to you. It's a lot like being in the dark ages. Like, after it's over with, you look back and you say, wow, that was a really dark and unproductive period of my life, because all my emotional energy was over here on this other thing. And so, my comments, my remarks were not meant to pretend like I'm the expert. Anything that I say, I don't get offended when people don't take my advice, or when people say, oh, I don't agree with that. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I probably wouldn't have agreed with myself 20 years ago. If you took the 25-year-old Boyce and he had to listen to the 45-year-old Boyce, he'd be like, man, that guy's full of shit. He'd either say that, or he'd be like, man, I like that guy. Sometimes you'd be like, okay, I admire that guy. I wonder if I could be like him one day. I probably can't, but it's worth a try. So half the time I'd be saying that. The other half the time I'd be saying, man, this guy is full of shit. Seriously, come on now. So I had to go through certain experiences in life in order to get to that point where I just, kind of said, man, ooh, things are different than what I thought they would be. And I feel that and I talk to Damon Dash about this a lot when we teach our class at intelligentbossmoves.com, which you can go check out. By the way, the first month is free. I told him, I said, there are people who look at us as almost like older brothers, uncles, or fathers, in the community. And I said, we both value and pride ourselves on fatherhood. So I said, I think we should embrace that. I think that it's okay to kind of say, Yeah, okay, I'll be your daddy for a few minutes. I'll tell you stuff that your daddy never told you. Because a lot of young people are traumatized, and I think it affects girls differently from boys. It affects boys and girls effectively. I don't know if it's equally, but it affects both of them. But where the missing father affects the boy typically tends to be in terms of learning a template for fatherhood. To be sort of socialized and connected to a society, you kind of have to have an example. You have to have somebody that can show you certain things. And you have a lot of mothers that really maybe feel that fathers don't matter, that because my son is well behaved and he looks good and looks healthy, that he's ready for manhood. And it's almost like me looking at a bear and saying, oh, he's a big, strong bear. Look at that bear. He can tear through that wall. I can put him out in the woods with the other bears. He's going to be just fine. But there are things about being a bear that I don't understand. There are subtleties of being a bear that would lead me to be very confused. Like if I put a bear out in the woods thinking, oh, he's a big, strong bear, he's going to be fine, I wouldn't understand why none of the women want to mate with him. I wouldn't understand why all the other males ostracize him. I wouldn't understand why he doesn't know how to hunt like the other bears. I wouldn't get all of that because I'm not a bear, right? So I think, honestly, the analogy does apply when it comes to male and female. If I'm raising my daughter and I say, oh, well, she don't need a mama. We can do this ourselves. My daughter, look, she looks good. She goes out every day, and I tie her ponytail up every day. We don't waste money at the hair salon. I just tie it up in a ponytail, and it looks good. And we sit around, we watch football all day, and I know she learned, a few things about being a woman. I had my friend come over and show her how to use, tampons and stuff, but we don't worry about makeup and looking good or nothing like that. I mean, we don't talk about that stuff. We just talk about guy stuff. I don't really think that would work very well. I think that my daughter would miss out. I have my two girls. I have my biological daughter and my adopted daughter, but they're both. I love them both. So in case you're wondering why I kind of go back and forth in my language, that's why. It's because I try not to confuse people, but I probably sound confusing when I say it. But anyway, long story short, it's kind of like people don't understand. You don't know what you're missing until you see the effects of what you've missed. You really think that it's all together. You think it's all there, and later on you find out that it's not. And so what happens, I think, for girls sometimes is that when they don't have a good template of a father to follow, they can make some crazy decisions when it comes to men. Like some things that look good and look normal, might actually be incredibly destructive. And so my point in the comment that I made, which a lot of people they made remarks about what I said. So a lot of people agreed. What tends to happen is that when I say something that some people might interpret as being critical of men or holding men accountable, a lot of women will say, "That's right, amen," and a lot of men will say, "Well, what about the women? Why aren't you talking about the women? Look at the women." Da da da. Right? And I don't like either one of those comments because the amen comment sometimes makes me wonder if we're lacking accountability. Just because I was talking about the men doesn't mean that we can't also talk about things you're doing wrong as a woman, right? And then with the men, when I hear men say, "Well, what about the women?" that comes off as deflecting. It's no different from the white people who say that, when you talk about police killings, they talk about black on black crime. And what I'm doing is I'm pointing out your flaw to take away the fact that you just highlighted my flaw, right? I'm playing offense to avoid playing defense, right? And so if I keep you on the defensive, that puts the spotlight on you. So you put the spotlight on me, I turn it right back around. And I think really at the end of the day, what has to occur is that we have to be willing to put the spotlight on ourselves. I know I try my best to put the spotlight on myself. I don't think it's human nature to do that, though, to be honest with you. But I try my best to put my spotlight on myself. And what I find is that I still don't like to do it. It's not fun. It's not fun to look at yourself and say, man, you're messed up in this area. Or, ooh, you made a big mistake in that area. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I find that putting the spotlight on yourself doesn't have to be a self-critical process. It doesn't have to be something where you walk away saying, man, I ain't shit. I can't do nothing right. But you walk away kind of realizing like, okay, I'm not perfect. I'm not as good at something as I want to be. But now that I've kind of pointed out the areas where I need to do better, my game's going to elevate. I'm going to have a greater chance of getting what I want. And so, for example, if you want to talk specifically on the relationship issue, I read this really interesting book a while back. The best thing I ever did was I read a book about women. Rather than sitting around pissed off and frustrated because women did things that didn't make any sense to me, I just read a book about women. And it was a book by Dr. Barbara DeAngelis called What Women Want Men to Know. Best book I ever read, in the sense that it really broke down so many things I didn't understand about women. I was literally opening this book, calling my female friends up like, do y'all really think this stuff? Is this really what y'all think? And they would be like, yeah, that's what happens. That's what we think. That's why we don't like it when y'all do this, and this. And I was like, whoa, this is freaking me out, because as a man looking into the mind of a woman was like going into the Twilight Zone, because it didn't make any sense to me. So what happened was I looked this lady up, and she'd written a companion book for women, called something like Secrets That Men Wish Every Woman Knew, or something like that. It was secrets in men and things that women should know. And I had one of my female friends read that book because she couldn't understand her relationship, and it really helped her a lot. And so what I realized is that if you want something from someone else, if you want them, whether you want them to love you more, to buy your product, to be your friend, to want to partner with you, or whatever, it's best to try to go inside their mind as opposed to judging it from the outside and saying, why are you doing things I don't understand? You ain't got no sense. You crazy. It's better to kind of go inside their mind and figure out what makes them tick. If you do that, you might be confused, but if you respect them enough to do that, then you ultimately find that you're able to connect with what they want, so that you can give them what they want, so they'll give you what you want. Either that, or you end up mad and frustrated. It's like looking for a job. If you go look for a job and you just get mad, you say, well, I got my GED and they won't even pay me $300,000 a year for 10 hours a week of work. That you're going to be mad. Like, man, I mean, shoot, I worked hard for my GED. I don't know why somebody won't pay me $300K, and then, but if you study the market, then you might realize, okay, maybe to get $300,000 a year, you got to have more than a GED, and you got to work more than 10 hours a week. Right. But if you don't get it, then what's going to happen is you'll always sit on the sidelines, mad, arms folded, kind of wondering why the world won't give you what you want. When the fact is that you didn't acclimate yourself to the nature of that market to begin with. And so, I'm really, honestly, when I talk about markets, the reason I bring up markets is because if you understand markets the way we studied them when I got my PhD in finance, you understand that dating is a market. It's all it is. It's just like the market for cars or the market for stocks and bonds. Supply and demand play a big role. There's a lot of other market-related theories apply directly to dating. So when I'm really looking at stuff like that, I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing how analogous this is to all the things I learned about the stock market. So when I was making my point about women kind of thinking about what they see in a man, it's funny because I think one woman made a really interesting point where she said, we need to end the stereotype that every woman is out here looking for a man who stays high and drunk, who is lazy and unskilled. That's not true. And I didn't say that was true. I didn't say every woman was looking for a man like that. I said avoid men like that. Avoid men like that. Also, you never see anybody say, ooh, I'm looking for a man who's lazy as hell, who ain't got no skill, who is always on the blunt, always drunk every day. That's what I want, girl, because that's attractive to me. You don't hear people say that the same way you don't hear a crackhead say, ooh, I want to smoke until I'm dead and have my family abandon me and end up on the street with white chalky lips begging people for money. That's what I really want. That's why I want to smoke crack, because I want those horrible things to happen to me. They're not chasing the downside. They're chasing the upside. The crackhead doesn't smoke crack because they want the pain of smoking crack. They smoke crack because they want the pleasure of smoking the crack. In their mind, the good outweighs the bad, at least in the beginning, or the good causes them to ignore the potential bad, or they think that can't happen to me, right? So in many relationships, nobody goes in saying, oh, this is what I want. I want a man who ain't going to do nothing for me and my kids, who's going to make my life miserable. I can't wait to get my hands on that. No, it might be, oh, girl, he got so much swag, and he was so smooth, and he was so good looking, and he's this, and he's this, right? And what's happening is at the same time, you're ignoring everything else. You're like, yeah, he got three kids with 2 babies mamas, but his baby mamas is crazy, da da da. Or you just overlook it, maybe because of the sex, or because you're lonely, or because he's just smooth like that. I mean, usually the dudes who got the 8 or 9 babies mamas, there's a reason they got all those babies mamas. I mean, you got to ask yourself, why do these dudes keep getting to have sex? Well, it's because they have something that is attractive to women, that makes women overlook the downside to grab the upside, right? And a lot of us in society, in this life, we're trained to want instant gratification. We're trained to want the thing that feels good right now. We're trained to think about the present and to totally ignore the future. All of us do it. In fact, it's part of what they call the monkey brain. You have the monkey brain that is based solely on instincts that makes you literally think like an animal. Animals don't really think about the future. Animals think about right now. Animals are like, there's food, I'm going to eat it. There's sex, I'm going to take it. There's a fight, I'm going to fight back. They're not thinking about the future long-term implications of their choices. So, in general, I think the thing that is supposed to make us different as human beings is the ability to use the part of the brain, I think they call it the prefrontal cortex, which allows you to engage in higher level logical thinking, where you say, yeah, it might feel good to have sex with this person and I really enjoy being around them, but they are so bad for me, so I'm just going to stay away from them because I don't even want to be tempted or addicted or whatever. But a lot of us, fall short of that. We fall short of that grace and that perfection. And ain't nobody sitting here saying anybody needs to be perfect. Don't ever put me on the perfection pedestal. I'm not ever going to pretend to be perfect because I'm not trying to get knocked off that perch. I will tell you that the reason I understand mistakes so well is because I've made enough of them to have learned certain lessons, to know certain things where I'm like, ooh, I'm not getting back in that no more, right? I had my only biological child. I had her when I was 18 years old. And it wasn't a pleasant experience paying all that child support all those years. I ain't gonna lie. I love my daughter. Love her to death. Love her to death. But that child support was like having my teeth pulled out of my ass. It was very difficult. It was a lot of money. And the thing was, your kid doesn't know how much you're sacrificing, how much money you're spending every month. So, imagine writing a check for $1,200, which was a lot of money for me at the time. And then having the child call you and say, Daddy, I need $300 for a field trip. And you want to say, your mama's got that money. Your mama's got that money. But you can't because, you involve the child in those conflicts and it makes the child become resentful. It becomes messy. So those are some of the things I saw firsthand that led me to say, okay, I'm not having no more kids out of wedlock. I've adopted and embraced children through my life. I have 4 kids. If anybody ever asks you how many kids does Boyce have, you could say 5 actually. I have 4 children that are godchildren and 1 son that was from a previous relationship. And what would happen is, these kids would come along and they'd be in my life in one capacity or another. And I was raised by a man who embraced me as his son, even though we weren't blood related. And I admire and love that man to the core of my heart. And so that's what affected me in terms of the man that I wanted to be. With these kids, they can all call me. They call me and tell me about their crazy little problems and everything else, and I just sit and listen, and I let them know, hey, I'm here to be an advisor to you, and a support mechanism for you, to let you know that I love you. I can give a little bit of financial support, but the choices that you make are going to be yours. I'm not going to tell you what to do in your life. I'm only going to advise you. And also, the only thing I require is that you bear the consequences for your decisions. That's part of maturity. If you want to make your own decision, then you must be willing to bear the responsibility for that choice, both good and bad. And so it leads to a lot of awkward, weird situations where I'm like, ooh, how'd that thing work out for you? And they're explaining what went wrong. And I'm like, okay, let's analyze this. Let's talk about how we're going to avoid this next time. And, and it's frustrating. It's tough to be a parent, So anyway, I really wanted to throw that piece out there, to kind of clarify what I was talking about. I wasn't saying every brother out here is worthless. I mean, there are things I've seen on both sides that are just like, ooh, that's crazy. For example, I've seen a lot of people, mostly men, but women too, who marry the wrong person at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. And where I'm from, Kentucky, I didn't see a lot of guys kind of growing up fantasizing about being married. I would see women, though, feeling that marriage was a measuring stick of your success as a human being, which I think is just a very flawed way of thinking. But unfortunately, it may be something about culture, Maybe it's instincts. Maybe it's something that's gender based. I have no idea. But I saw a lot of my friends get married too young, and I would say, ooh, man, this is getting messy. Where their marriage would either end or it would be just a big lie. It would just be something that they're pretending to hold together just to for the sake of other people, for the sake of appearances, and so, generally speaking, I've seen, some of my guy friends who maybe weren't excited about getting married, but they did it because they really loved a woman and wanted to show her how much they loved her. And so they propose, and it would end up being just an absolute nightmare. So I guess that both of those remarks could actually be applied to both genders. Both the remark about somebody being lazy, unskilled, and unproductive. Versus the other remark about marrying the wrong person at the wrong time for the wrong reasons. However, I do believe there's a difference between men and women. I do believe that women and men want different things on average. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but that does not mean that there is not a rule. And I think that, I believe deeply in codes of manhood. I think that for men, there are ways you carry yourself in life that create success for you, that also make you a viable option for those that you allegedly care about. I believe that to my core. I don't buy into this whole idea that men and women are exactly the same in every way. I don't, that's probably why I end up ruffling the feathers of some of my really strong, extreme feminist friends. Because I'll say, look, I believe in equality. People can do whatever they want. I talked to Zaza Ali about this the other day. And I said, I think women and men, of course, women and men can do whatever they want to do. I mean, why would you tell a woman she can't have a certain job or make a certain pay rate? I said, but if people want me to walk around here thinking that men have vaginas and women have penises, and that we all have estrogen and testosterone in equal amounts in our bodies, I don't believe that. Science says that's not true. So I'm not going to be a guy who's going to pretend that we're all the same. I do think that for men, you got to make sure your nuts are in check and get out here in this world and go get something. You got to stand up on your feet. You got to be willing to be smart. You got to be consistent. You have to be, sometimes you can be emotional. It's good, but sometimes there's not room for you to be the one who's sitting there crying. Sometimes you got to be the one who holds it together while everybody else is crying, and you out here fighting to solve the problem or to fix the issue. The same thing obviously is true for women, but I'm not the one to tell women what that means. I rather, that one of the reasons I like working with Zaza actually is because I think she's very good at telling women what their responsibility is, and I respect that. And so and I don't care what anybody thinks about me working with Zaza. I know people have rumors, and people kind of just want to be critical and throw shade, but I don't care about that stuff. People can say what they want. Anyway, I probably, in this video, I probably shared more information than about my life and my thinking than I probably should have. I know that I'm probably going to get a hard time back for this, but I hope that you can appreciate at least one thing. My goal is to be honest. My goal is to just tell you what I think, and those are my thoughts. And that's it. So, by the way, I wanted to tell you guys about one thing that we have that you may find interesting in the Black Business School. The Black Business School is growing. We have over 40-something thousand people that are affiliated with the Black Business School one way or the other that have signed up on some level. So I'm very, very happy with the growth. And if you're looking for a high quality, low cost alternative to what you learn in college, check out theblackbusinessschool.com. It's a great platform. The world is receptive to it because you're getting quality, college level quality professors who are all black, who can teach you how to build, who have experience in the field, who aren't going to charge you very much money. But there is a fee usually for most of the classes. So go check that out. We're educating men, women, and children. We do actually have some financial flashcards for children that we just released that are Afrocentric. They're going to be, they're on pre-order now. We're going to really actually ship them out on September 1st. You can order those at financialflashcards.com. That's financialflashcards.com. Also, if you haven't gotten a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can get a free e-copy at drboycewatkins.net, not .com. That's drboycewatkins.net. So go check that out. Also, if you want to see the great new film Hidden Colors, you can order Hidden Colors 4 from us. I'm actually in Hidden Colors 4. You can order Hidden Colors 4 from us, along with a free course in the Black Business School, in addition to an exclusive lecture that you won't see anywhere else, where Tariq Nasheed came to the Black Business School and explained how he built his company. You also get e-copies of 4 of my books to go with it. So it's a really awesome bundle, and you can get that at, write this down, it's hiddencolorsbundlepack.com. That's hiddencolorsbundlepack.com. Or if you just want to order the whole set and keep it for your family along, and you still get the free books, you can go to hiddencolors1234.com. That's hiddencolors1234.com. I made Dame Dash watch the movie and he loved it. Well, actually, he disagrees with me. He thinks that he says, well, you didn't make me watch it. Well, if I hadn't brought it to the house, he wouldn't have watched it. So I think I deserve some of that credit, but I'm just messing with him. And Dame and I actually have a movie coming out next month called Too Honorable. It's not for kids, but it's just one of the many films we're going to put out over time from Boyce Watkins Films, which we began this project to kind of do our part in helping to create the next Black Hollywood. We also have a film, Steel Justice, that we're working on about a black law firm and a black athlete who's falsely accused of raping a wealthy white woman. So there's a lot of stuff we got going on, and I hope you guys will check it out and support it. I think it'll be worth your time, worth your money. Also, it helps us to do our activism, because I'm actually at the Convention of the Oppressed. And one of the points I made in the convention was that in order to really fight oppression, you have to have an economic base that's independent. You can't stand up to your oppressor in 1 minute and then beg them for money in the next. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical. It doesn't make people respect you. So that's our goal. If you want to know why we do business, it's because we're using the business in order to strengthen our ability to do things that are going to build the community up. So with Boyce Watkins Films, my goal is to have enough capital over time. And we've had some strong black investors that have really stepped up and said they want to put some money behind what we're doing, because there's proof of concept. I put hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money into this, probably millions by now, to build this platform, and now people see that it's working. They see that it's good, and they're stepping up because they want to invest in it. So in fact, if you want to invest or whatever, at a certain level, feel free to email me at boyce@boycewatkins.com. That's boyce@boycewatkins.com. You may not get a response from me directly, but you'll get an autoresponder that gives you links to my team members so that you can reach out to them if you have a proposal, or you want me for a speaking engagement, or you want to do business or anything like that. Try to bring something that's clear, that makes sense. It's kind of hard to shuffle through everything and keep up with the demands, because there's a lot of people that reach out to us now. And I don't want to be offensive to anybody, but it's sort of like, make sure you're ready for whatever it is you're trying to do. Because I see a lot of people try to do things and they're just not there yet. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. It just means that you want to do some more research, some more homework to make sure you're at a level that you want to be. So anyway, I'm about to get out of here, guys. If I offended you with anything that I said, just know that it's just my thought, my commentary. I don't, you take my advice with a grain of salt. You don't have to agree with me. In fact, if you're a critical thinker, there are going to be times where you're going to disagree with me, and I invite that. I'm okay with that. But at the same time, I hope you at least give me the respect of, and I'll give you that same respect, of course, by considering another point of view. So if I'm wrong, or if you think I'm wrong, maybe you can stop and say, well, what would make him think about the world that way? What perspective would allow somebody to feel this way that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me? That's how you grow. You actually grow more by listening to people who disagree with you than you do by listening to people who agree with you. Because if all you're doing is preaching to the choir all day, then you really aren't going to make progress and evolve as a human being. So in fact, even when it comes to politics, I actually enjoy listening to conservatives more than I enjoy listening to liberals. Not because I'm a conservative, I'm not. I mean, if I had to vote, I would vote for a Democrat. Remember, our ancestors died for us to have the right to vote, not the obligation. And W.E.B. Du Bois actually did write an article called Why I Will Not Vote. And he was a very smart man. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't vote. I'm saying that you should consider every option that's on the table for you. Every option. And anybody who disagrees with me telling you to consider every option or to think for yourself isn't in your best interest. I don't believe in people just telling people what to do, even if it's counter to their instincts. So I'm about to get out of here, guys. Don't forget, go to drboycewatkins.net to get your free ebook, and also check out our Hidden Colors stuff. I gave you all the URLs earlier, so I won't repeat everything right now. And if you want the flashcards for your kids, though, that's at financialflashcards.com. I'm gone, guys. Take care. Talk to you soon. Peace.